Hey there, I'm Daniel, and I'm going to talk a little bit today about experience points for gold. Basically, this is how my favorite version of Dungeons & Dragons, BX, Basic Expert, Mulve Basic, whatever you want to call it, is played. It's the way that I learned how to play, back when I was 9 years old with my friends, and then I stepped away from D&D for a long, long time, and I came back to 5th edition where, at least on the very basic level, you get XP for killing monsters. And that was fine. I mean, it didn't really bother me. I didn't really remember so much. I mean, I remember killing monsters and stuff now. But as time goes on, though, and the more I step away from playing 5th edition and got back into older games, I really like the idea of XP for gold. Now, one way around that in a more modern game, like if you're playing 5th edition, I mean, you could just do XP for gold, I guess, but is to do story rewards and to do like a story-based leveling. So you just level up everybody at once when you want to do it. Because generally, 5th edition, anyways, is based on everybody leveling at the same time for the most part. Whereas very different, actually. So if you don't know that, very different from this game. Because, for instance, let me get the book. I have the book here. Boom! I dropped the book. A thief only requires 1,200 experience points to get to second level, whereas a fighter requires 2,000 experience points. A magic user 2,500, an elf needs 4,000 experience points. And the thing about it is that these characters, at least theoretically, that need more experience points are more powerful, right? So you take that kind of power boost, but it's harder to level up. Like a thief is one of the most fragile characters, especially early on. In fact, in the Winter's Daughter campaign that I've been running, Tony was playing a thief, Adrian, and his character actually got to 3rd level by the end of the 7 sessions. And Paratessa, who was the other character who started at the beginning, like other characters died and came and went and stuff, she actually did just, at the end of the 7th session, she would have leveled, basically by session 8, to level 2. So the thief leveled much, much faster because he needs a lot less experience points. So it's just the way it is, and it's part of the system. So all that's cool, and I like it, and maybe I'll talk more about, if you're interested in that specifically, in that debate or whatever, then, I mean, I'd probably rattle on about that forever, but that's not actually what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to come into this assuming that you want to do that, and you might run into the problem that I ran into, which is I started running not like the old modules that came from TSR or whatever. I started running all this awesome stuff that's being made for the old school revival, old school renaissance, whatever you call it. And the problem that I had was that, so I ran almost a year-long campaign, and it was like painful. Like it took, I think 1 or 2 of the PCs got to 4th level. Most of them were hovering around 2nd level. I mean, yeah, there were some losses and whatever, and it was a relatively large group, and it doesn't matter. And, it didn't really, I was just running the modules as written, and I was like, we were having fun, so it didn't actually matter. But then near the end of the campaign, it was actually one of the things, like when we were like the campaign wrap, we were talking about it. One or more players said to me, oh, I wish we could have leveled up a lot more. And I thought, yeah, I mean, it did take a long time to level up. So why, right? I think that a lot of the more modern adventures just aren't loaded with gold because one of the things, and I feel like I need to do, I'm going to do a video about this. I actually have it in my notes to do it, so you will get it eventually, which is about the idea that when you change a single part of a rule set, it can actually have effects that you might not think of. And this is one of them. So you're looking and you're like, hold on, I don't want my PCs to be running around with 10,000 gold pieces and be able to buy whatever they want and this and that. So I'm just going to lower the gold because no, that's just outrageous. Like, why would they ever have so much gold? They would never be able to spend it. They wouldn't go adventuring because they're too rich, right? Okay, that's fine. So you do that, but if it takes them a year to get 2,500 experience points, 2,500 gold pieces, then it's going to take them a year to level up as a magic user, and they're not going to be able to experience that. It's not going to be as fun. And in fact, if you look at the basic book, which we'll talk about next time, it actually says that they recommend that you level up every 4 sessions roughly. So, which makes sense to me. And actually, in play, it works out pretty well. If you play the older modules, that's pretty much dead on as to what you do. I mean, because usually the treasure builds up as you get deeper in. So, like, you won't level up. You'll be like getting a little bit of experience as you're coming and going out of the dungeon. Then finally, you get that last room that has like a ton of gold, and everybody levels up. It's kind of the nature of it. So yeah. So what can we do about this? So one thing that I've seen too, and I want to combine this actually, is that some people have switched to a silver standard. because it's more realistic. Like Lamentations of Flame Princess, for instance, has instead of gold, it's silver. You get 1 XP per silver piece, but also in their modules, they've basically swapped it. So it's not like, where you normally would find 200 gold pieces, you just find 200 silver pieces. That's just how they do it. So the gold is more precious and blah, blah. I don't think they have platinum. I can't remember. I haven't actually read that rule set in a long time. But in any case, going around in circles, I like that idea, but I think the trick is to do that, but not change the gold pieces. Because what you can do is you can make it so that they level up on silver, keep all the prices of everything the same. So the prices are still in gold, so it doesn't fix that unrealistic part. But if a torch is 1 gold piece, I think it's 6 torches is 1 gold piece. If 6 torches is 1 gold piece in BX, you leave it 6 torches is 1 gold piece. But a gold piece is worth 10 experience points instead of 1. That way, you can give the party less experience points, less gold, I should say, so you can keep them kind of poor and hungry, but they can still level up faster. So that's one way of doing it if you're not going to run the old modules, or just restock the modules that you buy or whatever with more gold. I mean, you can do that too. That's what I ended up doing in that campaign near the end. I just like the room would say it had 50 gold pieces, and I would just change it to 500. I mean, that's just how I did it. I didn't want to switch from silver to gold in the middle of a campaign because it just would have been weird. But I did think to myself, if I ever brought that campaign back, because there was another part to it, that I would switch to silver as gold. So again, if you're running, and I'm not saying this is every new module, you need to kind of look at them. You should imagine this. If it's a relatively large dungeon, whatever, let's say you look at the thing and you go, this will take 1 session to get through. Let's just say as an example. If you're assuming that people should level, and it's for a level 1 party, if you look at it and you say, okay, the average, I think if you take all the experience points, because elves need way more, so they're not going to balance out, and thieves need way less, but let's just say the average is about 2,500 experience points that a person needs to level up to level 2 from level 1. If that's the case, if that's the case, then that means in 4 sessions, they need to get about 650 or so experience points per session in order to do that. If you haven't, like a more modern party that has 4 people, then you're looking at about 2,500, right? About 2,500 2,500 gold pieces are worth of treasures, what they're going to need to find in that adventure. So if you're an adventurer and they go in there and there's the total of gold pieces in that adventure is 100 gold pieces or 200 gold pieces, they're never going to level like that. Like, you just can't do it. So when they go into that single tomb that takes one day's worth of adventuring, they should get about 2,500 experience points for the party, and then of course it spreads out. I mean, yes, you do get experience points for killing monsters, but it's so little I don't even factor that in. I only look at gold experience points. So that's one option, right? You could just be like, okay, I'm just going to raise the amount of gold there, or give them XP for silver versus gold. Now, the other thing that you can do, and I've been doing a lot, especially if it's a very roleplay heavy situation, like in Winter's Daughter, they were traveling and there was a lot of it was a story. There was it's very a fairy tale, and there's like lots of little things going on, kind of like a mystery. So what I did was I actually planned out a few things that I called story rewards, like when they first interacted with Fey magic, when they were willing to try it and like eat mushrooms or whatever they did, or drink the water. I can't remember the first thing they did. I gave them experience points for that, because they're interacting with the fiction, right? When they met certain people that they did, did right by people, right? They got experience points for that. And because by doing that, it basically allows them, again, to be able to level up. We played, I mean, it did take, it was a little slower than it should have been. But then again, those sessions were also 2 hours, and I always figure a standard session to be 3 to 4 hours. So if you think about it like that, we played 7 sessions at 2 hours is really about 4 sessions. So, I think we're pretty much right on with the leveling up. And in fact, I think probably because I got a pretty good chunk of treasure at the last session, that I bet you that Paratesha is probably at least halfway to 3rd level already. So anyways, my point being is that you want to look at each adventure. I mean, if you have a large like mega dungeon, like I'm going to be running Palace of the Silver Princess again, that's probably going to take 2, 3, 4 sessions. So I bet you if you took all the treasure in that thing and they get, you're not going to get every piece of treasure, but if they get a bunch of that treasure from that module, they're going to need to level up by the end of it. I guarantee they will, because it's an old school module and it's got tons of gold in it. It's like there's a statue that they found in one room that when I ran the first part of it, that was worth 3,000 gold pieces for the one little tiny statue. It's like, boom, not everything should be worth all that. And that comes to my second idea, is that you can actually, if you want to measure out and make it so that they don't have too much money, but you want to give them the XP, is what you can do is have high valuable jewelry and statues and things like that they can either not sell at all because nobody wants it, or when they sell it, they're only going to get a fraction of what it's worth. So yeah, you've got this gold statue of this ancient god and it's worth 1,000 gold pieces, but nobody wants that, and you could probably melt it down and get 20 gold pieces for it if you sold it. But I'm still going to give you the 1,000 gold pieces because that's the value of it, right? So you can do things like that. They get these gems that like nobody wants to buy, or that they're just nobody can afford to buy them from them, so that they end up with. I mean, they're still in the situation where they don't have a lot of money, or they have to use it. Like they have to give 100 gold piece gem just to get some rations because nobody can break it. They're just like, well, you know what? If that's all you got, well, here's 3 weeks rations and give you that 100 gold piece of gem. And this way you can have them exchange that money out, so you don't have that situation where they have too much money, and you can still give them the experience points. So, because what you really want to be doing is making sure that the average party member is going to level in about 4 complete sessions. Some people will level faster, some people will level slower, some people are dying. And this is the reason why I'm about to say I wouldn't do what you do in 5e, where it's milestones is what they call it, where everybody levels at once. Because one of the features of these old school games is that classes level at different speeds because they have different amounts of power. If everybody leveled the same, that is just not fair to the thief, who is much less powerful than, let's say, the elf, right? The elf is basically a fighter and a magic user. Like, why should they level at the exact same rate as everybody else? That's not fair, right? So what you really do want to, in these older games, stick with experience points, I think. But you can still award them for story ideas. Just make sure that you just break down your adventure. To okay, well, when they get this far, then I'm going to award this many experience points, which is 200 experience points. The other thing I always do too is I give experience points for attending, just being there and being part of the game. They get 200 usually. And what I do with that is if their PC dies, when they bring in another PC, all those attendance experience points they get. So I used to just do, you started first level with 0 XP, but now it's like, okay, you played 4 games, so on the 5th game you bring a new PC because you died, they're going to have 800 experience points because you were there, so you kind of deserve that. So that's a thing that I've been doing. I think that works out really well. And I mentioned in the exploration video, if you're doing exploration stuff, you can give people extra XP for mapping. You can give them extra XP for being the caller. You can give them XP for writing up story notes. I do that in the Astonishing Swordsman campaign, where they can write basically a diary of what happened, and they get 100 experience points for doing that. And that's super useful for me as a DM. I love to be able to read them back. It's really fun to see it through the player's eyes. And they like doing it, and they get extra XP for it. So why wouldn't they do it if they can? I mean, it's not for everybody, but all these little things will help people level up a bit faster, and it will help balance out the game if you want to keep it like a low-income game. Because I do think that's one of the issues, is that sometimes people are like, I don't want the PCs to be so rich. It doesn't make sense for my storyline. It would throw off the economy. People have these thoughts in their head. And so they just lower the amount of gold. And when you do that, it really does screw off the whole system. So if you're just going to lower the gold, the simplest thing, like I said, if you haven't already started and you want to start from scratch, is just say 1 silver piece is 1 experience point. And that will basically allow you to cut the gold down by a massive amount and still be okay. Again, I would still make things cost a gold piece so that it's cheaper, because if you make everything cost silver, then you're just doing the same thing. So that doesn't work. They still got to find gold, just less of it, and they'll get more experience points, right? Because you can give them 50 gold instead of 500, and you're good to go. So let me know what you guys are doing. Like, how do you do XP? I think a lot of people too that do our stuff do a lot of one-shots, so maybe it doesn't matter as much. But if you are running a campaign, I'd love to know what people are doing as far as like handing out XP, what like little tricks you have so that people can level up, and what keeps it, keep that old school feel, but still allowing people to actually experience and grow and do these things. So let me know if you want more videos like this, and I'm going to keep going through the basic book, I think, too, because that's going to be really fun. And subscribe if you have not yet, and I will see you next time.